What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I have some pretty cool news I want to share with everybody today. This is one of my favorite players in the world, and it looks like Barcelona is interested in signing this player, and it also looks from apparently these sources he is looking to leave his current club. I know there's a couple other clubs interested in this player, and I got to be honest, I don't necessarily think that's going to work out with those clubs. I'll get into my reasonings why, but I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this once we get into the video. I want to hear your thoughts, opinions, and more. What Barcelona is going to have to actually do to make this signing happen. So let me know what you guys think about this down below. If you guys end up liking the video or enjoy the content, I'd appreciate it if you guys drop me a like or subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're getting pretty close, so I'd appreciate any support. Now let's jump in. So it looks like Barca is trying to make a move for Julian Alvarez, and I thought last year maybe they would make a move. I know they were kind of tied financially, but now Lewandowski, I think he had a good season goal-wise, but I think most of us can agree it's time to move on. And I think this is the perfect time. There's not many elite strikers in the world anymore. Really, I don't even know if there's a world-class striker. Haaland's a world-class goal scorer, so I guess you can consider that a striker. Alvarez is very good. Lautaro Martinez is very good, but besides that, there's not too many. And I'm looking at this source right now. Bombshell, Julian Alvarez wants to leave Atlético and prioritizes signing for Barca this summer. Again, I don't know how accurate this is, but I like the sound of this. Now, I find it interesting for a couple reasons. And this is more so on the Atlético side. Reason being is they dropped, $90 million to sign him from Man City last season. It's also interesting because they went out and signed Sorloth last season as well. So they have those two. They still have Griezmann for the time being. I don't know why they would want one of the best players on their team, arguably the best player, to leave. And I don't see Barcelona spending that much money because I will say they do have to prioritize another defensive player as well as a striker. But I did hear that Barcelona is working on a swap deal, so this would mean Barcelona would send a couple players or one player to Alvarez, for Alvarez to Atlético, and I think this probably drops the price. And if I'm a betting man, there's a couple players that immediately come to mind to send over to Atlético. One is Pau Victor, one is Ansu Fati, and the other one is probably Araujo. Now, if you're Atlético, I think you got to look at this one of two ways because, yes, Alvarez is probably at this point your best player, but if I'm being realistic, and I think if we're all being realistic, Atlético doesn't have a shot in the world to win La Liga or win the Champions League anytime soon. La Liga is it's going to be too hard for them, and they're too inconsistent. And Real Madrid and Barcelona, they're too strong, and they have too many good players where I just don't see either of them dropping to Atlético. And then the Champions League, they're just not good enough and not strong enough to beat any of those teams consistently in the Champions League. So if I understand Julian Alvarez because he wants to win, I'd assume. And one of the reasons he wanted to get out of Man City was he wanted to play in a warmer climate. Spain is perfectly. The other few clubs that are interested in Julian Alvarez are Arsenal, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich. All can be relatively cold climates. I know that's not the main reason, but I don't see Alvarez moving back after one season to the Premier League, and I don't see him going to Bayern. They already have Harry Kane. I don't see Harry Kane leaving anytime soon, so that doesn't make any sense to me. Barcelona would be the perfect spot for him, and I think if you're Atlético, if you could get rid of him, and you could sign, and you could get Araujo, Pau Victor, and Ansu Fati for Alvarez, plus maybe some money. I'm not an Atlético fan per se, so it's hard for me to really justify that. Obviously, I think from the outside looking in, I think that's a relatively fair trade. You get a very good defender, and you get Ansu Fati, and you get Pau Victor, two young players that have potential. Ansu Fati just needs more playing time. I think he's got skill. He can be decent. He just needs to play, and honestly, he's just not going to play at Barcelona. Same with Pau Victor. I just don't think he's going to be able to play. He needs to go somewhere that he can actually play a lot and improve himself. Like, look at Antony and his move to Real Betis, how well he's performing. That's what those two players need. They need to prioritize a move like that where they're playing consistently. Barcelona, I would do that if I was Barcelona. Now, Atlético, that's another story. Do you want to give up one of the most promising strikers in the world for those other few players? And who's to say those are even the players they would get? I'm not sure any other players they would send. I don't see them sending any major players. I really don't even see them sending Gerard Martin or Hector Fort just because Barcelona needs those players as backup players. So I don't see that. Maybe Eric Garcia, but he actually was decent this season. I would keep him for depth. I think Barcelona needs to make this happen. I'm just going to be honest. I don't see them really having a shot with Erling Haaland. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think Victor Gyökeres is coming to Barcelona. I think a Premier League move is sounding more ideal for him, like Manchester United, Arsenal, or something else. Those are some of the rumors that I have heard. And then I don't think Isak is going to happen. And then Osimhen, I wouldn't want Victor Osimhen. And then Jonathan David, I don't really know what's going on with him, but I would take Alvarez any day over probably any of those players. I think he would fit in perfectly. And one of the things that I think is great about Alvarez is he's super dynamic and he's super versatile, where if Barcelona wants to run a 4-4-2, he can play as a striker. If he wants to run a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, he can play as a false nine. He could even play as a winger if he needed to, and they can rotate him and Rafinha and even try Rafinha as the number 9. He can play as a number 10. He did that with Man City several times. I mean, Man City had so many attacking players over the years where they would run Foden and Alvarez and Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne all in like that front 4 or 5 like front line they would run. It was insane. So I'm not worried about that at all. And even if Lewandowski stays, I still think it's a good move because with the inconsistency of Dani Olmo and Robert Lewandowski, he can play and interchange with both of those positions, and we can also swap him and play him for Lamine Yamal and give him rest, or Rafinha, or we can run 2 up top like Rafinha and Alvarez. How great would that be? That would be a sick front two, and then you can have Lamine Yamal play as, still as a right winger. I think that would be really, really cool to see. But ultimately, I think this boils down to whether Atletico Madrid wants to move off of Alvarez. I don't know why they would, because they're like in a weird spot. They have some young, talented players, but they also have players that are, more senior, like DePaul, who's getting a little older. Griezmann is definitely on the decline. I think he's out in a year or two. He didn't have a great season. They're just not strong enough, even with Alvarez, to win a major trophy. They might win like a Copa del Rey or Super Cup because it's 1 or 2 matches, but they're not winning anything major. So I think they have to look at it like that. What can I get for Alvarez? You might be able to get money and then 3 or 4 players that really maybe actually make your team better. Because right now they have 2 strikers with Sorloth and Alvarez. So I don't know. They swap between them quite a bit. So this is very interesting. I think it's up to Atletico whether they want to let him go or not, because Barcelona has some assets that they can send that I think makes sense. So ultimately, I think it's up to Atletico. But if I was Barcelona, I would actively pursue this. And I would like to hear from you guys. If Barcelona does a swap deal, I'm not sure how much less the price tag would be. I know it's going to be for sure around 80 to 90 million, which is still, I think, too much for a player like that. But in this market, I guess it's understandable. If they could get that to like a 30-ish million and send over like 2 or 3 solid players, I would 100% do that. I would do those 3 players that I said. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others that I'm probably missing that we could send potentially as well. I think Araujo could be a very, very good asset for us in terms of transfer market, because you can get some good money for him or a transfer with that. He's a good defender and he's got a lot of really great attributes. I just think it's really unfortunate that he fell asleep in 2 of the biggest moments in his career and when it mattered the most in the Champions League. And unfortunately, I guess it's kind of a trend. He's done some great things. He's made some great tackles. He's done some great stuff over the years. So it's tough to say, let's just move on from him. But I think if you can get a striker like Alvarez for him, or if you can get a lot of money, it is something to think about. But obviously, Inigo Martinez, I don't think, is a long-term solution. And this is where it gets interesting, because you already have Araujo still. You could make it work. It's not like Barcelona's going to be terrible with Araujo as a center back. So I'm just really interested to see what happens, but I really like the sound of this transfer. I hope that Alvarez chooses Barcelona, because I don't see him going back to the Premier League or going over to Germany. I think, he's a Spanish speaker. He likes the warmer weather. It's the perfect spot, and he's going to the best club in the world. It's a win-win for him and for Barcelona, and depending on what Barcelona could send Atletico, it could be a win-win-win. So let me know what you guys think. If you think this makes sense for both parties, would love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. And I'll catch you guys back here next time. Peace.